Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. Adam, in the house as usual. Yep. And our guest from the last episode, Moe Vela, in the house, Mo?
I am here. Yep, I guess is what I'm supposed to say.
He's in the house too.
So he's in the house. Our listeners just really loved Mo. They thought he was a great guest. So we thought, let's do another episode and talk a little bit more. We talked kind of about the digitization and work from home applied to the political sphere. Now we want to talk more about how work from home is more applicable to you guys. So Mo, why don't you just start by giving us a quick overview of work from home in this current virus pandemic?
There are so many solutions and tools in the marketplace now. Speaking of digitization and technology, we need to be using those tools and solutions like we do video chats and video conferencing and file sharing, and companies like the one I'm at the board of directors on, right? That we have software at Transparent Business, for example, that manages and coordinates remote workforces. So we can mitigate the risk of remote workforces now because we have so many solutions technologically. And so I hope your listeners are taking advantage of all the things that are available out there right now and the tools that are accessible now, so we can make this probably permanent moving forward after this pandemic. So I just wanted to share that. I don't want us to miss the chance to talk about remote workforce.
So Mo, people are obviously, one of the main reasons we started this is because people are working from home for the first time in their lives. Your company, the Transparent Business, one of the things that I see on the website is that you are believing in the amazing power of technology is what it says. What is the one piece of technology other than, just the internet to you? What is the one piece of technology that should be being used by people as they go forward? Like, is there a program or kind of what do you think is the most important thing for listeners to know about?
I honestly think there are three of them, if you'll allow me to talk about three of them instead of just one.
Absolutely.
Of course.
One is one we've all grown very comfortable and accustomed to, which is video conferencing and video chatting. Look, I don't want to take too much time on this, but I think a lot of people lose sight of the power of video conferencing and video chatting. And I think we just think of it as, we just need to get in a meeting, right? And we're going to use Zoom or WhatsApp or Skype or any number of the tools and solutions that are in the marketplace. And we got to remember something. The reason video chatting and video conferencing is so effective, it's because it's the next best thing to what we were used to doing in the workplace, which was seeing each other in the hallway face to face, meeting in the conference room, going down to see your manager in their office, seeing your boss. All of that is gone now. And video conferencing allows us to connect with each other, allows us to see each other. There's still nothing that will ever replace, in my humble opinion, eye contact, the ability to see and hear each other, and to somehow connect on some level. And video conferencing and video chatting allows us to do that. So I just want to point that out to your listeners because it's a very powerful tool, and it helps mitigate a little bit of the anxiety that exists because we can't see each other like we used to right now, and that we can't talk to each other like we used to. So I highly encourage that one. The second one is, and I won't expound on this one too much, is file sharing. I think right now we need to really use file sharing, whichever one you choose, from Google Docs to all the other options out there. That goes without saying why that is such a powerful tool. The third tool is software like ours. For example, at Transparent Business, where I sit on the board of directors and I'm the chief transparency officer. And there's software like ours, for example, that actually allows you to manage and coordinate a remote workforce. Let's be really clear here. The number one concern for businesses around the world right now is I don't know what the hell my employees are doing, right? They literally, right? I mean, it's true. They could be golfing, We could be shopping on Amazon online. We could be on Facebook with our friends. We could be playing solitaire. We could even be watching TV. And right now, the fear of employers and the reason we haven't moved to a remote workforce model, people dabbled in it for the last decade. We all tried it. Telecommuting, remote workforce models. Everybody would resort back to the traditional model because they had a bad experience with it, because they were managing their employees blindly. Who the heck wants to do that? That's like actually conducting an orchestra without seeing the instruments, hearing the instruments, or seeing who's playing them. So it doesn't work, right? So there's software now like ours that completely mitigates that risk. And here's the most important thing to your listeners, because they're probably sitting there going, oh, really? I don't want my boss watching me, right? Well, here's the good news. Software like ours took every step possible on the earth to protect the privacy of employees. Because I think it's really important that we keep this in mind, that as we're going to raise the accountability mechanisms and the accountability opportunities and solutions like I just mentioned in a remote workforce model, we can never cross the line to invade the privacy of our employees. But there is a way to hold people accountable and still respect their privacy and somewhat of their autonomy. And we have struck that balance at Transparent Business, and I hope that anybody that provides a solution or tool in a remote workforce model always finds and strikes that balance. So those are the three things I would say, Adam, are the most important right now. Is those are tools that are available immediately, and we should be implementing them to mitigate the risk, because productivity and efficiency are the two things every company is worried about right now, right? They want to make sure that under this remote model, they're going to remain productive and efficient, and we've got ways to help them do that.
We have Moe Vela on. He's a Chief Transparency Officer at Transparent Business and the first Hispanic to serve in 2 senior executive roles in the White House, first during the Clinton administration as Chief Financial Officer and Senior Advisor on Latino Affairs in the office of Vice President Al Gore, and later during the Obama administration as Director of Administration for Joe Biden. And he's a best-selling author of Little Secret, Big Dreams, Pink and Brown in the White House. Mo, let's talk a little bit more about Transparent Business. So what exactly is Transparent Business? How long has it been around? And how does it help people better work from home?
Well, so here's what it is. It's a software that is actually controlled by the employee. And so we're really proud of that because, again, as I said a minute ago, we really, really have gone out of our way to make sure that the objective was for the employer to be cognizant and aware in real time of the productivity and the efficiencies of their remote workforce, but at the same time retain control by the employee so that nobody's privacy has been invaded. So you just simply turn on or off the software on your laptop or your desktop, and when you are doing work toward your employer's efforts for your employer or your company that you work for, every 3 minutes or whatever the time is set by the employer, screenshots are taken, and that is actually compiled through very advanced algorithms into an analytic piece that then is in real time available to your manager. Again, not your actual screenshots at that point, but it's the algorithms analyze and evaluate it. So if somebody is on Facebook for 3 hours straight, the algorithm's going to pick that up and it'll flag it and allow the manager to recognize, hey, we may be having a little bit of a bobble here, right? The good news is on the control for the employee, guys, is that the employee actually gets to delete any screenshot that should not ultimately at the end of the day go to their manager. So that, again, employee controlled, but still meets the objective of holding folks accountable, and from an advanced algorithmic perspective, allows our software, it's so advanced algorithmically that it actually lets the managers know when there are red flags. If things are green, that means it's not recognizing any problems throughout the day. It's an amazing software. And by the way, there are studies that show that software like ours, for example, can actually increase productivity in a remote workforce environment. So I think it's just amazing that we have these tools available And now look, the universe works in mysterious ways. Over 90% of the global workforce is working remotely as we engage in this podcast. Over 90% of the global workforce is now remote. So these discussions and these topics and these solutions we're talking about, the three of us, are so, so vital right now. So I really applaud you guys for having your podcasts, because this is a relevant and real and timely issue. And if we do this right, it's probably going to be what we are going to have moving forward post-pandemic.
So, Moe, your title is the Chief Transparency Officer. Now, this is a title, obviously, I would say 99.9% of businesses do not have, maybe even 0.99%. And do you see, as things go virtual, any kind of middle management positions or other positions being erased, and how this will impact kind of the general structure of companies?
No, not at all, actually. In fact, middle managers or the level above middle managers, they will be the ones most likely receiving these advanced algorithmically produced analyses, right, from our software, for example. So no, I don't see this affecting middle management in an adverse way at all. If anything, I think it's really important right now for us to recognize, I've been saying this for the last 2 weeks or so, it's really important right now for the employer and the employee to recognize that both sides right now are very anxious. This is new for everybody. It's all of our new normal. So to your point, I hope that middle managers or anybody else is not worried right now about that, about the fallout from anything like this, for example. They really need to be concentrating, in my humble opinion, on making this work. Because if we keep businesses functioning productively and efficiently and keep our operational efficiencies intact, companies will remain afloat in spite of a very damaged economy right now and in spite of this pandemic. And guess what? That means we get to keep our jobs. So no, I don't think it adversely affects any particular level of management. To the contrary, I think if we do this right, it's going to secure jobs because our companies are going to stay in existence. That should be all our ultimate goal.
Well, Mo, I think this is a pretty cool software that's really going to catch on with business owners and with companies. I think you guys are going to do very well. So congratulations for that.
Well, thank you.
But I do have a problem with it. And I'm a business owner myself. I have contractors who work under me. Yep. And the problem that I do have is, you said that it essentially monitors and manages remote employee, the employees. And as a business owner, I don't care what they're doing. If they're on like you said, Facebook for 3 hours, that's fine with me. If they're, out playing golf, that's fine with me, as long as they're getting their work done.
That's right.
And on top of their work, it doesn't matter to me what they're doing, on the internet. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, I don't disagree with you. And our software is not in any way promoting anything contrary to that. At the end of the day, if you can go play golf all morning and you still get your work done, while you're working on your laptop, you turn our software on, it's just going to simply do what I said before. That's between you and your employer, right? If they're okay with you going to golf, it's not like our software is saying, you better do this between 8 and 5. That's not what our software does. The beauty of our software, it simply monitors you whenever you decide to work, okay? And so when you do, it's just about saying, I'm telling my boss that I'm doing this. And look, the last time I checked, I own a couple businesses too. I don't mind if my folks go golf. But here's the deal. If you're telling me you're working for me right now, I have the right to make sure that you are. You want to put it in a different context? Think about contractors who are doing business for the government. Let's use them as an example. You know how many times they overbill or fraudulently bill or wastefully bill? Because nobody has any way outside of an audit to make sure that if they said they were putting in 1 hour of work, they actually did 1 hour of work. And so we're not suggesting that it's an 8 to 5 software. It's just simply monitoring what somebody does when they say they're doing it. That's it.
Yeah, and I think that's a good distinction that you made. It's not the software it's not your founder's fault for creating it. It's a great software. It's really, I think, the abuse that could happen amongst the middle and upper level managers who try to use the software for purposes that may not be in the best interests of their employees. So you're absolutely right. The software
that's a good point.
Yeah, but the people, it always comes down to the people.
It absolutely does. And think about it. There are about 150,000 ways a middle manager or an upper level manager can abuse all kinds of processes today.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So this is no different, but I would hope that a good employer and a good company would have all kinds of safety checks in place, right? All kinds of quality control in their processes and systems that will mitigate what you're pointing out, which is once in a while you're going to have a bad apple, but hopefully those are few and far between. And so, again, you're right. It just comes down to people. And that's why I always bring up loyalty. Because during a remote workforce that now is kind of a shock to the system, right? To the workforce system globally, this is a shock to the system. Nobody was really planning to have to move to a remote workforce so suddenly. And so loyalty in both directions, mutual loyalty right now is so vital. Employers are going to have to start with the premise of being loyal and trusting their employees, and employees are going to have to actually share that loyalty and that trust with their employer right now as we work through this. But again, I cannot reiterate enough how important it is that we make this work, that we use the tools available to all of us, that we work out the kinks, Naresh, that you just pointed out, that together we make this work diligently, efficiently, because it will be amazing if after this pandemic, we can move to more of a remote workforce model around the world. Because let's focus on the positive. Can you imagine? No commuting. You're not stuck in traffic.
You want to save global warming now. Boom.
Yeah.
Do you realize that people in Los Angeles call me literally 3 times last week to say, I can see downtown for the first time?
Yeah.
Because there's no carbon emission and no pollutants going into the air. So you know what? That's probably not the highest concern of people right now. But think about it. A lot of folks, their children are home because schools are closed. So you know what? It allows you to get on the floor and play blocks with your kids. Spend some time with your kids that you weren't otherwise going to have. If you don't have to commute, that's an extra couple of hours every day that we get back now. We can have it this way afterwards. But we need to make this work. And the way to make it work is to stay loyal to one another, be patient and flexible with each other. I'm talking about employer, employee, employee, employer, right? And use these tools so that everybody is being honorable and trustworthy and we're being held accountable, not invading our privacy. But you know what? It's the least we can do to make this the new normal, and let's make it the new way of life afterwards. I think that should be our goal.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things Naresh and I have talked about numerous times on this show is the fact that for the most part, when you work from home and when you're doing it yourself without the distractions of the office, you can be a whole lot more efficient. And, you can use your time a lot wiser. Do you see, as we come out of this and kind of the economy starts picking back up, if people keep working from home, do you think this could be potentially like one of the boosts that our economy needs coming out of it that'll help us, increase efficiency? Because that is one of the things that has always shot the United States and the economy forward, and the economy over the world. It's just as efficiency grows, the economy grows. Do you see this as a turning point that could potentially jettison our economy and society forward?
Absolutely. You know what? My mom in Texas used to say, out of all bad can come some good. And so out of this horrific tragedy that we're all living, this nightmare, I really believe that one of the greatest things that can come from it is what you just alluded to, which is we could move to more of a remote workforce model. There are already surveys that show that many employers are already saying this, last week and into this week already, today, saying that at least 20 to 40% of the workforce, they want to actually keep remote after this. And that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a good thing that can come out of it. But look, let's be really honest here and transparent about what needs to happen. It will not work well if we do not teach employees how to make it work efficiently. And one of the most important things on that front, in my humble opinion, from my experience doing it and being a part of the transparent business, is this concept of creating a routine. You've got to create a routine, because otherwise you're going to get into a lackadaisical or laissez-faire kind of mental state, and that's when efficiency drops, to your point, Adam. Okay, so creating a routine, you got to get up, take your shower, get dressed, put on your makeup, do your hair, put on something presentable, because remember we talked about video chats and video conferencing, so you better look decent, right, and professional. And so you got to set these routines. So one of the most important ways to keep that efficiency going in a remote workforce model is this routine setting and self-discipline. We've got to discover our inner self-discipline. It is absolutely vital that each of us, and I'm going to be very, honest and vulnerable here. That is not one of my fortes, okay? I mean, I'm not that guy that says, oh, I'm going to get up and go walk 3 blocks today. I have to force myself to go walk 3 blocks, right? And so I'm practicing what I preach on here, this getting in touch with our inner self-discipline. The other little trick that I have found that works very well to create those efficiencies, Adam, that you're referring to, in order for us to keep this the model. Again, this should be our goal. Let's make this work so that we can do it after. And that's establishing boundaries. So designate a place in your home as your workplace. If it's a studio apartment, that's okay. Pick a corner with a desk in it. And when you're at that desk, you're at work. And the rest of your little studio is personal. Okay? If you have enough space to have an actual room as your home office, that's where you go to work. The rest of the house is off work limits. That's personal time. So it's important to do this because I think it distinguishes between personal time and work time. Of course, if you work for Naresh, you don't have to worry because you can go golfing and not worry about any established boundaries, right?
Yep. I mean, we're doing a lot of these recordings, like whenever we don't have guests, we're doing them at, Naresh, like midnight your time, 12:30 your time?
That's because he was golfing all day.
Well, not now. Not nowadays he's not.
But you know where I'm coming from. A
Yeah,
lot of it
no, I got you.
Having the mental state of mind, right? And one thing that a lot of people that are out there doing these types of messages like I am that don't mention, in fact, I haven't heard anybody else mention it, and I watched like 12 of these. Guess I thought, well, maybe I'm like not as good as they are or something. But you know what they're not talking about that I always add in? And maybe there'll be those who criticize me, but I think it's very important right now for everybody to engage in self-care. So it's important, if you work for Naresh especially, right, you get to actually take that time. If you work for me, for example, take the time, turn our software off, and go walk around the block. Go walk your dog.
Oh, yeah,
go
that can be.
Or with your children. This is part of self-care. It's very important right now because a lot of people, the three of us are very fortunate. We're not alone, but millions of people are alone in their homes right now. Mm-hmm. And so remote working alone can get very lonely. It can get boring and it can get monotonous. And to combat that, I believe that part of the solution is self-care. Go do something for yourself so that you recognize that you're not alone. Call a friend, chat with a colleague, even call your boss. You might actually score some points with them. Check on them, right? But we're not alone. And to battle that loneliness, it's important that we all stay mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically healthy. And those 4 categories, without that, none of this works, right?
Yeah, and especially I want to tell people, I completely agree with you, but one thing you're going to have to do when working from home, at least that I have to do, is it's going to sound really boring and lame. You have to schedule time to do that because it is so absolutely easy during your day to just say, oh, I'm just going to go do this because it's right here. I'm just going to do this because it's here. I don't need to leave the house right now. No, if you have it on your calendar that, at 10 a.m. I go to the gym, at 1 p.m. I go do this. That gives yourself the time, and it tells you that you have to do it. And that, I mean, because I've had times where I haven't done that before, and guess what? I don't go to the gym. I don't go out and do things. But when I schedule it, it actually happens.
You know what? I have been doing this now about 28 times on TV across the country. You know, Adam, I'm going to give you credit starting tomorrow because I just added that 4th bullet to my creator routine.
Well, I'm honored.
You just contributed to my Moe's helpful tips because setting a schedule is an important part about creating a routine. So I just added it. Thank you so much.
I'll send you my invoice.
I knew you were going to charge me. I had a feeling that was coming. I'm sure you read one of Naresh's books, right? Where
I know my value, Mo.
Yeah, see, you read your books. You taught him how to make money from everything, including providing Mo one little bullet point. Yeah, no, that's great. You're spot on, and in many ways, I guess I was trying to say that indirectly, which is even your self-care, to your point, needs to be scheduled. Make it a part of your day. Make family time a part of our day. I think employers are going to be more flexible and patient, and if they're not, shame on them. We are encouraging them to be. They should be during these difficult times. Again, what's the mutual objective here? What's the common goal of all of us? Let's make this work so we can keep doing this after. Because this is much better than being in traffic. And it's much better than getting on the subway train in New York City with 1,000 people, stinky people.
Yuck, yuck, yuck. So, Mo, tell us, do you have any ideas on how the government, whether it's federal, state, how the government can implement a robust teleworking policy? And I ask this because you alluded that even after we come out of this pandemic, work from home is here to stay.
I agree, and I hope it's here to stay in numbers that the three of us can't yet imagine, right? I really do. We've already outlined, the three of us in this discussion, so many of the reasons it's beneficial to move to that model. So let's talk about the government. Either state, federal, municipal, county, whatever level it is, governments are always traditionally the last to move to something new, right?
Yes, yes.
I will give them some credit. Even when I was in the White House, we were already allowing telecommuting on every other Friday or something like that. You know, it was on a very limited basis, and it was called telecommuting, which was kind of interesting, right? This is much more robust than that, what we're talking about here. I mean, look, I think the government's going to go kicking and screaming, but I think if we, in the private sector, we can show them during this pandemic how beautifully this works, how efficiently it works, how operationally it was seamless. And if we can show them that, I really believe, having been the director of management twice to 2 vice presidents, I got to be involved in these types of decisions in the White House. I'll tell you something, I would have looked at this, especially if I had seen that in the private sector it was working beautifully. And if I saw that, I knew that it was. Let me backtrack for a second. Keep in mind that there's some little mindset when you're in the government, right? For some reason or another, and I don't think it's wrong, honestly, but there's this kind of concept that they're extra cautious, okay? And I think that's why they're reluctant to adopt new technologies and new solutions as quickly as the private sector is. There's a caution there. And I think it has to do with because there's a responsibility to the people of this nation. And I think that in general, most people can't stand the government, but I'm going to say something very good about it. You know what? In general, it does care. The government cares, right, about our citizenry. And so I kind of appreciate that caution. But that makes my previous point, it makes it make more sense, which is like when I was in there, if I had seen that it worked, I'd look at it, of course. And so let's make it work. Let's show that this can be done. Let's show that it's actually going to contribute to further collapse of the economy. In fact, to the contrary, to Adam's question earlier, it can contribute to the recovery of the economy.
So one of the things whenever anything in society changes drastically is a lot of times the poor and the kind of lower levels of the society, they get kind of left behind. How can we make sure that this movement doesn't leave a ton of people behind?
Well, that's a really great question, actually. A lot of people have been failing to ask that question. Another reason I applaud both of you in your podcast. Look, we need to come clean with everybody. These tools that we're talking about all apply, for the most part, the vast majority of them, apply only to computer-based work, right? And so if you're talking about non-computer-based work, I probably am not the best person to discuss how we address protecting them in moving to a remote workforce model. But I will say this about it. If it's non-computer based, which will be your more, your working class members of our society who, frankly, we can't even function without.
Yeah, notice they're all essential workers right now.
That's right. That's the backbone of our society. That's the backbone of our economy. And we should be talking about how we protect them in moving to a remote workforce. I don't want to diminish that. I just want to make it clear to your listeners that I'm not an expert in non-technology solutions for a remote workforce. However, I will say this, that there have to be, again, I don't know what they are, but there have to be solutions that are technology driven to address this, Adam, for non-computer based workers. Okay? There just has to be. Think apps on a phone, on a mobile phone, right? I already know, for example, in having worked with a major telecommunications company 2 years ago, that their remote workers, for example, they're not computer-based. They were out fixing telephone poles and wiring and this kind of work. And I can tell you this, they're all given a laptop to carry in their truck or on their cell phones. There was already technology 2 years ago to monitor their work. So to your point, there are technological solutions as well for non-computer based work. And I hope that employers that are listening today will go to seek those out as well. And again, let's put them to work. Let's put those into as part of the solution in this process so that no worker, no employee, especially the backbone of our society and the backbone of our economy, our working class brothers and sisters, we must make sure they don't get left behind as we move into this remote workforce model. So
that can be the next president's stance is Bush had the no child left behind. We can have the no worker left behind.
Wow,
that's a good one.
That. With your permission, I'm going to send that to the Biden campaign.
Go for it. Just tell him if he uses the phrase, he has to say, he has to give me credit.
I will absolutely put your name to it and not mine, because it's like taking another artist's work and signing their artwork.
As long as he plugs the Work From Home show, we're good.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Actually, when you guys start recording your next set of podcasts, we should invite him to see if he would be a guest on it.
He's welcome anytime.
That sounds good. He is absolutely welcome. Yeah.
Because you just raised a really interesting point. There probably are a lot of folks listening that are members of unions. And, as you know, the Vice President, Biden, has a long history of supporting unions, and as does the Democratic Party, and as do I. And, that's a whole nother discussion that should be had. In fact, maybe one time in your next set of recordings, you guys can actually invite a union member or somebody from the union leadership to discuss how a remote workforce is going to impact the unions. Yeah. It's an interesting topic, and it would be interesting to discuss how that might be.
Really, really good topic. So, Mo, any last thoughts about the company that you work for, Transparent Business? You're the Chief Transparency Officer. Are there any other products or services that we should know about?
Well, you know what? We're really proud that we have a multi-beneficial software, honestly. Its original purpose was the management and coordination of remote workforces, as we've been discussing. But we have other functions and benefits from our software. For example, we have a sister company, a subsidiary of Transparent Business called SheWorks. So we use this very same platform of our software to actually create talent pools for encouraging women to get into the tech work workforce, tech remote workforce. So we use our software in a variety of ways. Like I said, one, encouraging women to enter the tech remote workforce through our SheWorks product and platform, a part of Transparent Business. So that's another one. There's a project management component and benefit and function of our software. There's what I alluded to earlier, a verifiable billing component to our software and benefit, where managing contractors to any private sector company or to any governmental entity to prevent the waste, fraud, and abuse and overbilling of contractors, which, by the way, I'll give you a quick example. In New York City alone, in the last few years, there was a contract that was overbilled $500 million for not the existence of a whistleblower. The city would have paid a $500 million overbilling to a particular contractor. Our software actually prevents that. We filed legislation in 33 states where we're trying to make it mandatory that governmental entities use software like ours to prevent the taxpayer from getting screwed by that overbilling, waste, fraud, and abuse. So there's 3 or 4 different ways our software is beneficial, and I appreciate you giving me the chance to share all of that.
So Mo, all right, I got one last question, and we've talked about this on our show. We've had a couple of episodes about it, and I want you to give me your best Mo uncensored answer. All right, this is your chance, Mo, to shine. Have you watched?
I thought I was shining all along, Naresh, by the way.
Shine brighter. There's a chance to go like supernova or whatever.
Okay.
So the world's in lockdown, and the people are stuck at their homes. The internet almost came crashing down for a variety of reasons, because that's what people are doing at home, just using the internet a lot, but they're also watching a lot of TV.
It's our lifeline.
It's the lifeline. And as the first gay executive in the White House, and as a gay man, have you watched Tiger King?
Oh, I knew you were headed there. You scared me. I was like, where is he going? Okay. This is more of a confessional than anything, I think. Now, you know what? Tiger King was so trashy, I couldn't stop watching it. That was my assessment of Tiger King. First of all, it played on probably the worst of every stereotype about gay men possible, right? Leopard print, open-chested shirts made of like some type of shiny nylon material. It was horrifying in so many ways. So does that tell you that I watched it? I binge watched it.
He only spent one day watching it.
I really did binge watch the entire thing, because I'm not kidding. It's so trashy, I couldn't stop watching. I didn't appreciate him having 4 husbands. That doesn't bode well for the gay community. And I just honestly, it was either Tiger King, or I have been known lately to be telling anybody who listened to me that I have kept the gay porn industry in business during this pandemic. Because only so much Netflix you can watch. And then I resorted to the Tiger King and realized I have got to find other things to watch. And, the porn industry, thank God, was there as a, volunteering to offer us a respite of sorts. And so yes, I've watched the Tiger King. Gosh, what can I tell you about it? I have to tell you, I'm not lying. I was sad. There were moments I was sad. I was sad because in many instances, it showed us how broken some people can be. There were moments where I felt that we as humanity, we've got some work to do still. And then there was a part of me that I guess played into my love of animals. And I didn't find any of the people alleging that, including Carol Baskin, I didn't find any of them claiming to take care of tigers and animals, doing it in a manner that I felt was humane, because they were still so caged. At least at a zoo, there's a roaming ability.
Yes.
And I don't know. So honestly, overall, I found it trashy enough to keep watching, sad in some instances, humorous at other times, embarrassing. That's another word that comes to my mind because of what I said earlier. So I probably shared much more than you ever wanted me to about Tiger King and watching porn. But you know what? I just tell the truth. That's all there is to it.
Hey, you know what? Our listeners, I'd say all the time, our listeners are called homies. And homies consists of homeboys, homegirls, home trans. We don't discriminate. We accept everybody. And look, you're not I'm sure, if you're a listener and you watch like that gay porn also, email us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. We'll pass your note on. We'll pass it on to Mo.
You could have thought that I might find a husband on your podcast.
There you go. Yeah. See? We're here to help.
hello@workfromhomeshow.com. Let's make it happen.
Working from home.
And I will say, if Mo worked in an office, he would not be watching either of those two things.
Yes, that's true.
Another benefit of working from home. Adam, I have to add another bullet. You are just on fire today.
He's on it. Hey, remember, you got to credit workfromhomeshow.com. Workfromhomeshow.com.
I love it. Workfromhomeshow.com. How could anybody not want to listen to this and watch this?
Yeah, absolutely. We said on the last episode we'd send that to the Senate. This episode, we got to send it to I don't know what their names are, but the gay porn industry.
Oh my Lord, I think we just ruined my whole career, but don't worry. Guys, you guys are awesome. I'm so proud of you. I really am. I'm proud of what you're doing for your listeners. I think this is an immensely important topic, and I hope that someday you'll have me back. I would be honored to be a guest anytime and spend more time with both of you.
Right. No, thanks, Mo.
we really appreciate everyone. That's Moe Vela. Awesome guest. He's a chief transparency officer at Transparent Business. Check them out. He talked about their products and services. Transparentbusiness.com. Got a lot of good things. I'm going to look into it some more for my company.
Please do. We'd have to do a demo someday for you guys too. And by the way, to your listeners, hopefully they'll follow me on Twitter at Moe Vela, Moevela.
That sounds good, Mo. Thanks a lot for coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, to all our homies out there, check us out, workfromhomeshow.com. That's workfromhomeshow.com. If you have any questions you want us to pass along to Mo, or if you have any questions for us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. That's hello@workfromhomeshow.com. And until next time, keep on working from home.